Hi friends, this is Aaronica from Aaronica Cole & Co, where of course every now and again the & Co is my kids and my family who occasionally join me on my channel. Today we are doing a sew along for the day shift dress. Now if someone would have told me that I would have been into a shift dress a while ago, I would have been like, absolutely not. But my girl Romy Crystal from Sew Like drafted this pattern and launched this as her very first pattern, and I fell in love with it. And then, of course, as you all know, we're doing our Pinterest inspiration to closet manifestation, and I'd already pinned a denim, because of course denim is so big this season, a denim shift dress, and I was like, this is going to be perfect. Now, of course, the denim shift dress that I pinned did not actually have any pockets, but Romy's pattern has some huge pockets that are great for phones, snacks, because you know I'm a mom and I always got to have snacks on me, and all of that. So we are going to go through a sew along for this here pattern. Here is my Pinterest inspiration right here. And I feel like, obviously because I'm wearing it right now, we have success. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so we are ready to start the sew along, but first let's talk about sizing. Now, Romy's size chart has, of course, your body measurements, which many use to go ahead and guide what it is that they're going to use to sew. I opted to choose my sizing based off of the finished measurements. The reason why is because this garment has a whole lot of ease, meaning that it's meant to fit kind of like oversized. And sometimes I feel like as a plus size baddie, if I'm not careful with my oversized garments, then they can swallow the shape that I do have, and I don't necessarily want that. So what I did is I took a look at the finished measurement chart as the basis for what I was choosing my actual sizing with. Now, for reference, I fall in, my bust is at like a 20, and then my hips are technically in like a 30. And so the sizing that I cut was an 18 to a size 28. I graded out, I'm like a pear shape. So I graded out from my bust to my hips to give me that extra space, so that way there was still some oversized nature to it, but not so that I felt like I was swimming. Now, this is my first time making this pattern, so we're going through this together. Let's take a look at the pattern pieces and the additional things that you need in order to make this happen. Okay, so of course we're going to start off with our pattern pieces. So I've got, this is the front piece, which of course we can see that it's the front because it's on the fold. So we've got the front piece, one of those. We've got two of the back pieces right here. And then we also have two of the side pieces. This is a shift dress that features no side seams. And so this is the side pieces right here. Then we've got two of these super big pockets, because who doesn't love a big pocket? And then the pattern does, because I am doing a sleeveless version of it, the pattern does actually call for bias tape. Instead of making my own bias tape, I opted to use bias tape that I just bought. So we've got this bias tape, which is for, let's see, this is for an armband. And then we also have another one for the armband. Then, of course, we also have this one for the neckband. Now, because there is some gathering that's done, I did go ahead and open up my bias tape so that I could go ahead and mark these here markings that line up for my bias tape, just to make sure that I have done this the correct way. And then lastly, of course, we also need some elastic. I've got to figure out what elastic I'm going to use, but then I feel like this little button is so cute to go back there. These are little hearts, so this is what I'm going to use for my button as well. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. Now, just for reference, I'm going to be using my Bernina L890 to construct this entire thing. Why? Because with my Bernina combo machine, I can do a combo stitch, which does both the chain stitch as well as finishing the stitch at the same time. It makes it a whole lot easier when you're sewing like things like denim or other woven fabrics. So I will be using that in addition to, of course, my Bernina B590 for the things like the pockets and stuff like that. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. So one of my favorite things to do is, of course, use Pinterest for my inspiration. So this is one of my Pinterest inspiration closet manifestation looks. And listen, do not judge my life for my ironing like board here. Now, I love the way that the wrong side of this fabric looks. So I do actually, I don't know. I'm trying to decide if I want to use, I'm going to go ahead and use the actual right side this time, because I did do another shirt that was out of this denim where I used the wrong side. Now, to do pockets, I do like to use, I like to use a little bit of hem tape because I feel like it helps hold things in place a lot easier. So for this, we're going to be doing a double fold. And by double folds, I mean that we're going to be folding it over twice so that we can go ahead and seal those seams up so that we don't have any fraying. Now she's calling for a 1 centimeter, essentially double folding it with 1 centimeter. This is my Fiskars hem gauge. And so we're going to be doing we're doing 1 centimeter 2 times. So that is in essence what I brought that out for. Am I going to use it? Probably not, but I am going to break out my, oh my goodness, why can't I remember what that is called? Well, I'm using that anyway. In addition to, now I do like that, this Fiskars, but I also feel like having this, this Dress Easy hem is a little bit easier for when I'm doing the double fold over, like how I'm doing here. So that's what I'm going to use to go ahead and press this in place. I feel like it just makes it so much easier to line up. Now, whenever I'm doing patterns like this, I like to start out with like the tedious parts first, because I hate ironing, I hate pressing, I hate doing all of these. So if a pattern calls for it, I'm just going to do it first. So we're going to hem these pockets up first. And then because I'm just going to be doing the same thing, I'm just going to fold it over itself and press that in place before I go ahead and I put my tool that I cannot remember the name of right now for the life of me. And of course it's because I'm on camera and I need to remember it, why I absolutely cannot. All right, so we're gonna just go ahead, flip this over, put that down right there so that that can cool with that on top. I like to do a lot of fingertip measuring. So if you're like, girl, why didn't you measure this one the same way? Just simply because of ease. Clapper, that is what it's called. Yeah, I was like really going insane trying to figure out what this little tool is called. Our clapper. I was reading somewhere and they were like, a lot of people have an issue with pressing because they don't give it enough time to cool before moving it. And I agree with that to an extent, because if you're using the clapper, then it does help to put it in place to cool. So we're gonna do the same thing on this piece as well. Okay, so we've gone ahead and top stitched both of our pockets as the first step that I wanted to complete. And this denim is looking so good with this yellow top stitch. It confirms that I made the right idea or the right decision in doing that. The next step that we're going to do is we're going to jump into beginning to assemble our pattern pieces together. So now you guys already know I don't typically follow the pattern tutorials, so I don't know if this is what is actually the next step in there, but what we're going to be doing, and what I'm doing is I'm following what feels right in my spirit. Okay, so now I did mark all of my notches just so that you can kind of see. I just did them with very small slits here. The double slit indicates the back, the front slits, the single slits indicate the front. So what I'm going to be doing, and again, because this is where, just kind of where our pockets are going to go first. Let's go ahead and make sure that we line this up here. So these are going to be where our pockets go. And so I'm going to go ahead and I did mess this up, but it's fine. I should have only top stitched the top piece of them instead of also the bottom piece, but whatever. This is just going to have a double stitch there. So now we're going to top stitch our pocket pieces in place on our side pieces. Okay, so now that our pockets are top stitched in place, I actually like the way this double top stitch looks. It looks very good in my humble opinion. I'm just going to clip my pockets in place though. So that way, as I add both the front and back pieces, it makes it that much easier. It has a nice smoothness to it. So now let's go ahead, and this is my front part, and this is the back. So we're going to go ahead, and I'm going to attach my back pieces on first. Why? Because when I attach my pieces all together, I prefer to join and have less kind of like feelings of fabric being all over the place. So that's what we're going to do. And we're going to do our right sides together, of course. And so here we have. And what I'm doing is I'm just wanting to make sure that I can spread this out and make sure that I am doing this the proper way. Okay. So we're going to go ahead, and I'm going to line this up like this. So that way it's nice and flush. And I'm going to move my clip that was holding just my pocket piece so that it is holding the pocket piece along with this side panel down. And then I'm just going to go ahead, grab some clips and clip this together. Now that I have kind of added and done the top stitching piece of it, I'm going to hop onto my L890 to go ahead and assemble this garment because it's easier, if we're being completely honest. So I'm going to go ahead and stitch this piece together. Now let's go ahead and clip together the other side as well, because I like to do this because, listen, we're trying to sit down, knock things out, because while I wish that I had all day to make this super cute shift dress, your girl does not. Making sure that this is the back, smoothing that on out. Putting another clip in for my pocket piece here. Then we're going to take our other back piece and going to go ahead and just simply do the exact same thing, lining it up. Now I did grade my pattern, so like my pocket pieces do not exactly match, which is fine because sometimes that can happen when pattern grading, which is why it's so good that you true things up towards the end of your project. For me, this is happening in the middle of the project, which works as well. Okay, so now let's go on over to my L890, and we're going to go ahead and attach this. Okay, so we've gone ahead and done that stitch. We are going to go ahead, bring our ironing board back up because we're going to go ahead and press out these seams because I decided that I have loved how the top stitch is looking. So I want to top stitch these seams too. And just so that you can kind of see what this combo stitch looks like, we have our chain stitch right here, and then of course we've got our serger stitch right there, which finishes that seam, making it so that you don't have any kind of fraying that will happen. So I think I'm going to go ahead and press my seams towards the back, so that way as I top stitch, I'm able to top stitch this going towards the back, and I think that's going to look really nice. And then I'm going to, when I do the front, I'm going to end up top stitching that towards the front area so that we have a little bit of uniformity there. So this looks fantastic. Let's go ahead and press out this other side as well. And then we're going to go ahead and add our top stitch. You guys, I'm so excited about this. I did not think that I was going to love the darker or the actual right side of the denim. But adding it in with this like yellow top stitch, when I tell you that it is making me so happy, I really mean it. So let's go ahead and throw in our top stitch now. Okay, so we have gone ahead and finished that top stitch. Let's take a look and see how that looks. Wow. Wow, isn't she beautiful? Wowzers. I am loving how this is turning out so far. So now we're gonna go ahead and attach our front piece. So when we attach the front piece, we're gonna be attaching, of course, our front centerpiece, and we're gonna be doing, of course, our right sides together per norm. So we're going to be doing it on both sides though. So we're gonna go ahead and I don't know where I put those other clips I was using, but let's go ahead and clip this together. I did not mention this earlier in the video, but the seam allowance here is 5/8. An aggressive seam allowance, y'all already know that I feel like 5/8 seam allowance is like super aggressive, but I also understand why we use a 5/8 seam allowance. And of course, the 5/8 seam allowance allows for a lot more tailoring options when we get into patterning and actually making things fit. You have the ability to really get a good custom fit with that 5/8 seam allowance, despite how aggressive I feel like it is. So we're gonna go ahead and pop this on in to my L890. We're gonna attach this to the first side. Then we're going to attach it to the second side before we top stitch again, okay? So let's go ahead and get this in here. Now I see where I put my other clips. One of the things that I love about this machine is that it does come with, this is the thing that helps you to keep track of your seam allowance. So you can always put this on if you need help with maintaining your seam allowance. Very cool. It comes with the machine. Love that for us. But let's go ahead and get this party started here. Ooh, my foot. Okay. Okay, so now that we have constructed the front and the back pieces, now it's time for us to put together our shoulder seams. So let's go ahead. And again, we're going to put our right sides together as we do this shoulder area. And so we're just going to be coming together right here at the shoulder seam. I don't know why I keep forgetting to bring my my clips that I'm using back over here so I have them. Thank God for my little bathtub. Okay, so we're just going to be putting together these shoulder seams again at that 5/8 seam allowance here. Then we're going to do the same thing on the other side and put these shoulder seams together like so. It's coming together. So we're going to put the shoulder seams together. And then we're also going to go ahead and put our back seam together as well. So now with the back seam, because we are essentially going to be making a keyhole, we're not going to be sewing up all the way. So I'm going to clip my bottom area where of course I'm sewing to. And then there is a notch marking right here to show where we're sewing up to. So I'm just going to make sure that my notches are lined up. So that way I leave this space open. And so I'm going to just sew up to that. So I'm going to head to the serger and we're going to just sew our side seams in this back seam. Then we're going to come back and I'm going to fold this over so that I can, of course, seal my edges so that we don't have any fraying, and then fold it over one more time so that way we create our keyhole. Okay, so we did hit it with a little pre-K pause here because I wanted to check and see exactly how this dress was feeling. So far, honestly, so good. I've got sweatpants on, but let's take a look and see how it's looking so far. I really am liking this so much. Look at how big these pockets are. They're so roomy. But yeah, so I'm probably going to take a hefty, like a really aggressive seam, because again, if something is really kind of loose and oversized, I do feel like I want it to be shorter as opposed to being too long, because again, I don't want to drown in fabric. But so far, this is looking really, really good. This top area here is actually going to go ahead and be gathered. And instead of gathering it, I do actually think I'm going to go ahead and pleat it. I'm going to do some small pleats instead of gathers at this area. And then we just have to put in, I do kind of feel like I could have taken a little bit more in at this arm area because of how much it's gapping here. But outside of that, like, I feel like it's really, really good. So let's go ahead and finish this. Okay, so for this next step, we are going to go ahead and add our, we're going to do our fold over so that way we can top stitch our little keyhole area into place. So of course, putting our ironing board back up on the table. And so here is our garment. We are going to be folding this area. Oops, there we go. We're going to be folding this area in, but we're going to do a very small fold first, and then we're going to fully fold it over. Again, the seam allowance here is 5/8 seam allowance. So in order for us to be able to get that, we are going to just, I kind of wish I'd done this first. It's fine though. We're going to make this first fold very nice and narrow, because all we need to do here is, of course, make it so we can essentially tuck in this second part, so that we have a nice clean finish there. And then we're just going to fold that over again. And we'll be putting a little top stitch action here. So that side is done. I'm going to just stick a little clip in this so that it has a chance to cool while in that position. We're going to do the exact same thing on this other side. Oh, there we go. So let's go ahead, flip this around to the other side, and I'm going to press it. It's a little hard for me to film that side, so I'm just going to do it. Okay, so now in order for me to go ahead and actually get the right pleating that I want to do, what I've done is I've gone ahead and I've clipped into place my bias tape. And so I've clipped it every place but this like little front panel. So now, because I've got all of this excess fabric in this front panel, this is telling me about how much I'm going to need to pleat it in order for me to kind of meet where I need for it to meet. And so again, I'm pleating it because, not saying I don't like a good gather like everybody, but if I'm being completely honest, I also love a cute little mini pleat, right? I have my pleated skirt pattern. Obviously, I'm like in my pleated era. So I'm simply using this as the opportunity to kind of just do some very small mini pleats. And as you can see here, like, it's the distance is shortening. And so it does also give me a little bit more control as like in where I want the most of the gathering to be, right? So I've got about this much left to kind of gather. And if I'm completely honest, I kind of just want like 3 pleats down this middle area. So I'm going to completely undo this, move everything so that it's more towards this center area. And then that is how I'm going to attach it. So I like that. And of course, if you want to gather, by all means, make sure that you gather, and then you'll be able to see exactly how much you actually do need to gather by how your bias tape is looking. And so I'm just going to go ahead and do one more pleat here. And it fits perfectly. And so now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use my serger to actually go ahead and attach the bias tape to the neckline. I'm going to be doing the exact same thing for my armbands as well. I'm going to attach it using the serger, and then I'm going to top stitch, of course, using my sewing machine. Okay, so that went in very smoothly. Now we're going to go ahead and press this down so that it's nice and into place. So that way we won't have to worry about shifting as we top stitch. And then of course we're going to also add in the small elastic piece that is supposed to kind of hold it or actually function as the place where we fasten the button. So I'm just going to fold this down. I'm actually going to go ahead and make sure I properly crease this area here. So that way that is nice and in there. And then we're going to just simply fold this over, press this down. And I am actually very tempted to just use my serger like strings to just go ahead and use that for my button. I'm not. We're going to press that down. Whew, I tell you what, doing this, let me see, is it easier to do it with the right side facing inside? Let's just see, because I feel like it's trying to give me a run for my money. Okay, so we're enclosing that and folding it down. And I feel like this is just going to be a challenge. So I'm going to do this off camera because the camera is kind of blocking the access I have to my iron. But we're going to press this down before, and then we're going to go ahead and grab our elastic that we're going to use to create the button attachment. Okay, so we have gone ahead. Sorry about that. So we've gone ahead and we have top stitched, and we have done the bias tape on the armholes as well as around the neckband. So now we're just going to quickly press this before we move on to the hem. I did go ahead and, like I said, I put in this here elastic for the button. And yeah, it's just time to hem. And then I've got to hand sew my button on because I'm doing a shank button. Now, this is not my favorite, but you know, we got to hand sew some things on occasion. Now, if you guys remember, when I did my try on, I did say that I wanted to have a more aggressive hem. So let's take a look at what that is going to look like for me. Now, again, we are going to go ahead and make sure that we fold our hem over twice. Of course, the reason being because we want to make sure that we don't have any of the fraying that's currently happening right now represented in our final garment. So we are going to do a either 3/8 inch or 1/4 inch first hem before we do our final hem. I think I'm going to do a total of probably about 1.5 inches of a hem because, again, I do want this to be at that kind of mini skirt length. So my first part of, let me see. Oh, this is the back. I didn't top stitch the back. And I didn't top stitch the back because I didn't feel like it needed to be top stitched. I didn't want to draw attention to that. So I did not top stitch it. So now we're going to go ahead and fold this over twice before we pop this on the machine to hem it, and then we will be finished. Okay, friends, we did it. We have our dress, and I am in love. Let's take a look at it. I'm going to take a step back, lower the camera some so that you guys can get the full effect. Okay. But here we are. And dare I say it's so cute with my compression socks. Let me make sure that my mic is on. But dare I say that they look so cute with my compression socks. So let's talk about this pattern. So it is pretty safe to say that I am absolutely in love with how this turned out. Now, again, I do feel like I could take a little bit out of the top part, but is that going to stop me from wearing it? Absolutely not. This is the perfect Pinterest inspiration to closet manifestation. As we can see right here, this was my inspiration, and I don't know, yeah, I feel like I nailed it. Now, in my inspiration post, they didn't actually have pockets, but your girls got pockets, which is one of the great things about being able to sew your own clothes. So let's talk about the pattern. Now, again, I opted to size down, and I'm really happy that I did. And I do think that I need to size down just a little bit more. The fabric that I use is this denim. It does have a little bit of drape to it, but it's a medium weight, not too light, not too heavy. And I feel like it's perfect for this project. Let's see, did I do anything different aside from using some pre-made bias tape? That's basically the only thing that I did different. You can see that I did go ahead and add my button. I did hand sew it, which y'all already know is not my favorite, but it was not too bad just adding that in. Otherwise, this was a really straightforward and fairly easy sew. I hope that you all found that this sew along was really helpful, and it encourages you to go ahead and step outside of the box. Whether you are a vintage baddie, whether you are plus size, whether you are a more modern day dresser, I really do feel like this day shift dress by my girl, Romy Crystal, aka Sew Like, is a really fantastic sew. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments and if this is something that you would make. If you would make it, would you color block these areas, or would you just keep it kind of cute and copacetic like I did here with just one style? Now, I do think that color blocking this with a couple of different patterns would be really fun. Like, I could totally see me doing this in like a cheetah or a leopard print. And in truth, I really feel like those terms are interchangeable. I digress. And then mixing it with like a stripe or a floral, I feel like that would be so pretty, as well as possibly even the stripes with a floral pattern. Great option right there. But as we head into fall, I really feel like this is a really great transitional piece because I can layer under it or over it, and I had that option. Again, I did go ahead and do a 1¼ It's ended up being 1¼ inch hem on my dress, and I feel like this is hitting at the perfect area. And also, I am wearing this with my compression socks because your girl has to keep it cute as well as keeping it safe for my health. And we're making lymphedema fashion, you feel me? But that is it for this here sew along. I hope I see you all on the next video. And with that, happy sewing.